Okay, to get us started, we're going to look at Andrea Duran on the Olympic team and Team USA. And she's going to take us through some of the things we do before we even swing the bat. So number one is a loose grip. Now take a look at Andrea's hands, and she's wiggling her fingers before the pitch comes. So you can see she has a nice loose grip, and her hands are right about shoulder height. Her hands aren't crazy high above her head or too low. They're right about shoulder height. The next thing we're going to look at is her stance. So I'm going to draw some lines on here, and you can see she has a nice athletic stance. She has a slight bend to her knees and a slight bend to her waist. Nice athletic stance. The next thing we're going to look at is her stride. So she's going to load the weight on the inside of her back foot, pick up her front foot, and take a small stride towards the pitcher, and that's her stride. And if you look down here at the red line I'm going to draw, she strides right in line with the pitcher. She doesn't stride out this way in the bucket, and she doesn't stride close towards home plate. She strides right in line to the pitcher. And then the last thing is swing hard. And you can get a sense of how hard she swings. I'll play that again. And she hit this ball for a home run in one of the Olympic games. So again, when everything's in line, swing hard. Okay, now we're going to look at Callieh's swing. Callieh, you worked really hard at the camp. You did a really good job, and you improved in a lot of areas. And then we're going to see on the video now a couple areas that you need to keep working on. You can't fix everything overnight. You got to keep working on these things. So as far as your stance goes, it looks really good. Your hands aren't too high. You're bent at the waist, bent at the knees. This is a really good position here. But then as you go to swing, you kind of straighten up and get real tall and vertical. And you're going to see why we need to work on that a little bit. There's your spine right there. It's too straight up and down. Ideally, you want a little bit of a tilt to your spine, and you're going to see why in a second. So that's one thing. You load your weight on your back foot, and you take a stride. You got to watch out, though, that you're not striding too far outside in the bucket. You want to make sure you're striding right at the pitcher. And as far as swinging hard, yeah, you swing pretty hard. Swing through the ball, and yeah, you're swinging pretty hard. So that looks good, and we'll go through everything else in a little bit more detail. Okay, now we're going to look at how an elite softball player, Andrea Duran on the Olympic team, how she handles a few of the things that we worked on in the hitting camp. And number one is hiding the hands. And this is kind of the wind-up before we unwind and hit the ball hard. So if you notice, if you look in the red circle, we can see her hands there. And if you look at her number, it's a 2 and a something, but we can't read the other number. So she's going to hide her hands and do a little bit of an inward turn, and this is the wind-up before she swings. So I'm going to scroll through the swing here. You can see her hands, and then as the pitch comes, she hides her hands right at her shoulder, and now we can read her other number too. It's an 8. So let's watch that again. We can't read her number, and we can see her hands, and then as the pitch comes, she hides her hands and does a little bit of an inward turn, and that's the windup before the swing. So here's how an elite softball player hides her hands. Okay, so the first thing is hiding the hands. That's the little windup that we take before we swing, and you did a little experiment, Callieh, and I remember hiding the hands. You hit the ball a lot harder than when you didn't hide your hands. So let's take a look at that. This is what we were working on, and yep, I see your hands right now, but as the pitch comes, they get hidden. You do a little bit of a wind-up. They're right by your back shoulder and hidden, and then you unwind when you swing the bat. So good job hiding your hands. Let's see that again. There we see them, and there you hide your hands, so that's good. You may want to work on a little bit more of an inward turn, though, where you actually turn your shoulders inward, because you really don't do that much. You could do it a little bit more, and that might lead to a little bit more power. But overall, pretty good. Okay, the second thing we're going to look at with Andrea Duran is her bat plane. And what we want to see is the bat staying on plane all the way through the swing. Now you can see that her bat right now is flat on her shoulder, and that's okay. It doesn't really matter where it's at right now because she's just in her stance and she's relaxed. But what we care about is at this position right here, right as she gets ready to swing, does her bat stay on plane? And if it does, that leads to a more powerful, efficient swing. So I'm going to draw a line right through here. And you can see that the bat and the lead arm and the shoulders are all on the same plane. And as she rotates around and swings, the bat stays on that plane and she follows through on that same plane. So this is a more powerful, efficient swing if you do this. So we get the bat on plane, and it stays on plane and it doesn't drop down or do anything crazy through the whole swing. So that's called keeping your bat on plane. One more important thing about bat plane, and that's how do you do it? Well, you notice that Andrea Duran is not standing straight up and down. Her spine is tilted, and then that's how she's able to maintain that tilted axis as she swings the bat. She rotates along that tilted axis. And what her lead elbow does is very important. I'm going to plot it with a green line, and you're going to see that the lead elbow rotates up. It does not rotate flat, and therefore it rotates up along the same plane as the bat, right along the tilted axis, and that's how you do it. So make sure the lead elbow rotates up. Okay, next we're going to look at Callieh's bat plane, and you know now when you're dipping and when you're not dipping. We've figured that out, and you're just going to have to keep working at it to get it right. But you can see right there when we're getting ready to start our swing, the bat just keeps dropping off plane and dropping behind your back shoulder like that. And we need to work on keeping the bat on plane. And then when you go to rotate, you can see that your front elbow rotates along the green line flat, and your arm and your elbow don't rotate up on the red line, which is what it needs to do. So we need to work on your bat plane. You want the bat and your elbow all rotating right along that red line. So we need to do a little more work on that. Now we're going to take a look at Nikki Williams from the University of Washington. She's going to help us with our next few items. So now we're going to look at number 3, which is the back elbow. Now notice when she starts, she doesn't start with her back elbow really high and her front elbow really high. If you look at some girls, some of the younger girls, they start with their elbows really high. There's really nothing good that comes out of that. She starts in more of this upside down V position, which is a more relaxed way to start your swing. So then as she begins to swing, the back elbow comes up, but the important thing is it gets connected to the hip, and then the back elbow and the hip rotate at the same time all the way to impact. And then right when she hits the ball, her back elbow is bent. Now it straightens after she hits, but it is bent at impact. That's very important. We do not want a straight back elbow at impact. That means you're pushing at the ball, and that doesn't lead to a powerful swing. And also the back elbow is not creeping towards her belly button or getting ahead of the hip. What happens is the back elbow and the hip rotate at about the same time. Okay, now we're going to look at Callieh's back elbow. So as she starts her swing, you can see that the back elbow is connected to the hip, but then as you swing, now it kind of gets disconnected and you just kind of push your arms towards the ball there. It is bent right when you hit the ball, which is good, as we can see by the green line, but we need to just work on keeping your body rotating and not pushing at the ball so much. Okay, now we're going to look at number 4, which is the palm up, palm down position. And here we have Nikki Williams from Washington and Katie Cochran on the right from Arizona State. And you can see right when they impact the ball, they are palm up and palm down. Their hands are not turning over as they hit the ball. They are palm up, palm down. And another important thing to look at right at impact is look at their lead leg. It is straight. So it moves. You can see here, we'll show Nikki Williams on the left. It's nice and loose and flexed all the way to impact, and then right at impact it locks. And same thing with Katie Cochran. It's nice and loose and flexed, and then right at impact it locks. So here's our impact position. The lead leg is straight, the knee is firm, and we are palm up, palm down. Okay, now we're going to look at Callieh's palm up, palm down position and the straight front leg. You can see right at impact, look at your hands. They're turning over. And we don't want to do that. That's not the most powerful way to swing a bat. We want to keep our hands palm up, palm down, right at contact, and not turn the hands over. And then also, if you look at your front leg, it's still a little bent at contact, and we want a nice, firm, straight front leg at contact. So it's flexed while you're rotating, but then right when you hit the ball, we want it to straighten out. So just a couple things you need to keep working on. Okay, now we're going to look at the 5th thing, which is making sure that we use our whole body, and that means using Ikey Mikey shoulders and rotating our back knee to face the pitcher. So first, let's just look at the knee. Here's Andrea Duran on the left, and let's make sure that she rotates and her back knee faces the pitcher. Sure does. So she has to come up and rotate up onto her back toes, and her back knee is facing the pitcher. And then if we look at Jessica Mendoza, same way, and the back knee faces the pitcher. So that makes sure that she's rotating her hips. So back knee and your belly button face the pitcher. Then we go back and look at the shoulders. And this is important. There's a couple things to look at here. So on the left here we have Duran. She's at Ike there. Her chin is touching her left shoulder. And then when she rotates, her chin touches her right shoulder. Ike Mikey. And then Jessica Mendoza, same way. There her chin touches her shoulder, Ike. And then when she rotates so much she rips the bat out of her backhand. And there she finishes at Mikey. So we're rotating the hips and the shoulders. But the big thing about the shoulder is if you watch over here, Andrea Duran, her front shoulder keeps rotating all the way until she hits the ball. You can see that. And if we go back to Jessica over here, the front shoulder keeps rotating all the way until she would have hit the ball. So the shoulders keep rotating. What we're going to see in some of the swing analysis is that the front shoulder stops rotating, and then that's when they push their back arm. Now we're going to look at back knee to pitcher and Ike Mikey shoulders. So first we'll look at the back knee to pitcher. Are you rotating your hips? And is your belly button and your back knee facing the pitcher when you hit the ball? Yes, it is. And you're up on your back toes, which is good. So that's good. You're rotating back knee to pitcher. Now let's look at Ike to Mikey. So there, Ike is in your front shoulder, so Ike. But then when you go to Mikey, you kind of stop rotating your shoulders. So what we could do is rotate your shoulders harder along with rotating your hips and make sure your back shoulder hits your chin as well. So we rotate our shoulders, Ike to Mikey. Okay, and now the last thing we're going to look at is vision. Good hitters have good vision. They see the ball and they watch the ball all the way to their bat. So let's look at two of the best players that ever played the game. You can see Duran, she's looking right at the pitcher, and then as the ball comes in, her eyes track, and you can see right there, her eyes are now right on the ball, and then she hits the ball. So she has great vision and watches the ball all the way to her bat. On the right side we have Mendoza. She's looking at the pitcher out this way right now, and you can see as the ball comes in, her eyes track that ball all the way to the bat. So good hitters have good vision, watch the ball hit the bat. And the last thing we're going to look at is vision, or watching the ball all the way till it hits the bat. And I noticed something here. It may be hard to see on the YouTube video, but you can see your eyes. Your eyes are on the ball right now, and they're tracking into the ball. But if you look right, they're right there. You close your eyes. Eyes are open, eyes closed, eyes closed, eyes closed. So you, at least on this hit, you actually closed your eyes when you hit the ball. And so your eyes should be open, and they should be looking right down at the ball, hitting the bat. So from this position, they're on the pitcher, and then your eyes track and watch the ball hit the bat. So work on not closing your eyes when you hit the ball.